it makes you feel dirty just thinking about it. It's just, nah, man. And you're in an emotional state. Let me ask you this. How many times have people said that it's best not to make big decisions when emotional? And yet, these funeral homes and businesses will take advantage of you in making a major financial decision when you're in an emotional state. And you may charge it to your credit card. Or you may end up going to debt to start a payment plan. Payment plan? For mourning your dead loved one? Payment plan? Funerals. Now, one of the things that I actually have experienced in a bit of a way was a few months ago, my grandmother passed. And in doing so, you dive into the weeds of caring for the remains of a loved one when they die. It's something that a lot of people do not want to have to deal with. It is a very complex and convoluted system. And you're already dealing with that, with the trauma, as well as dealing with the mourning that you have to deal with in regards to death. When you lose a loved one, you want to honor their memory the best way you can. We do this through funerals. But one thing many aren't talking about is how death is big business. Now, I saw this video on TikTok, and there's a funeral director that is actually talking about this. And I want to give my thoughts throughout this, especially about the profit motive of death. So, if you guys will allow me, let me share my screen really quick, because this really hit. And I think a lot of people need to talk about this, especially within your sound mind at this present time, especially with your families. So,
but I do want to take this opportunity.
Oh, let me start off from right at the beginning. Come on.
To spread.
Oh, stop. Okay. All right, there we go.
Title of this video is Funeral Hustle. Spread some education amongst my people, and I'm going to forewarn you that the information I'm going to share with you can be disturbing to some. It can be angering to some. It may be hard to stomach, but we're going to talk about it, because a place where people waste a lot of money is on funerals. I don't ever really jump when people holler funeral. And the reason for that is I spent a significant part of my life working as a family service counselor in a funeral home. I have seen every aspect of the funeral business. I know it like the back of my hand. Okay, from scraping up your brains off the street, putting them in a bag, taking you to the coroner. Once the coroner give me the call, I can come pick you up. I come pick you up, clean you up, call my man in to embalm you. I dress you up, put you in the casket, service to the cemetery we go, burial, covered, flowers, hug your mama. That was my job. Now, let me tell you something. I was trained specifically to find out how much money you had to spend and to spend it all for you, because I collected a 30% commission. So if you had $20,000 funeral policy, insurance policy, it was my job to try to get you to spend $20,000.
Did you hear what this man just said? 30% commission on funeral sales. Say what? 30% commission? Let me ask you something. Does something sound wrong about that? Does it make you feel a little icky that they're making 30% commission? They're making a commission at all on funeral sales? Huh. That don't sound right to me. 30% commission. Doesn't it sound doesn't it make you, isn't that unsettling? It gets deeper. Let's continue.
Okay. So if they taught me to do this, then I'm thinking they taught everybody to do the shit. Now, I had a hard time with this after I had made some money because I say, man, this lady's husband just died, and I just spent $15,000 on his funeral, and she can't pay her mortgage next month. See, because that's what insurance is for, to help the surviving members keep on going after that family member is gone. Now, with GoFundMe, that's different because that's not insurance. That's asking for help. But the bottom line to this situation is, y'all, funerals are a waste of money.
Let's talk about that point too. Because when we talk about insurance, I made a video on TikTok earlier this morning because a young woman was talking about how auto insurance, in her view, is also a scam. Life insurance is also a scam in the way that where your basic material conditions and needs were met, the necessity for life insurance would actually become null and void. What do I mean? So if you had housing guaranteed, healthcare guaranteed, food guaranteed, education guaranteed, transportation guaranteed. If you were to have all these things in the way that people like myself believe, then the necessity of life insurance becomes less and less and less. Therefore, making it really just a waste of money because these life insurance companies do so for profit. You have funeral companies that will see that, oh, this is how much you got for end of life expenses. All right, we're going to absorb all that, even though that end of life is to take care of the person after they die. They want you to spend all that money on just mourning the person who died. When in reality, it's supposed to be for the person so that they have healthcare, housing, food, water, transportation, daily expenses for their life. But that's not how it goes, because the profit motive exists in end of life expenses. This is the dark underbelly of the funeral system. Boy, let's continue.
Hear me and hear me well. First thing is an airtight casket. I put people in the ground. A year later, the family's moving to another state. They want to take that family member with them. I make it a point to tell them they cannot be present when we exhume the body. The reason for that is because that airtight casket that I sold you wasn't really airtight. And it's actually filled with water at this point. And your loved one is in there floating around in water, deceased as can be. Okay. Do we steal jewelry? No. The jewelry will be in there floating too, or if it done came off the bones, but it gets real fucked up underground. And I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. We barely get any rain. So if caskets are filled with water in Nevada, then imagine how much water they got in Georgia or New Orleans. I'm telling you, funerals are a waste of money. Dead is dead. And you can do a decent homegoing if you know what you're doing and you're not dealing with shady people for $5,000 or less, depending on how are taught to take advantage of your emotions with a very, very plain look on our face. I'm like this. Yes, ma'am. I understand. It's gonna be.
Yo, I went to my grandmother's memorial, right? A few months ago. Yes. Yeah. Very, very sorry for your loss. Oh my gosh, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 5 songs and 3 sermons later, my auntie get the bill. Was that all necessary? See, that's the thing that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And here's the thing, especially among Black people and religious people, oh, it's big business. Huge business. Especially when you get them 3-hour-long, 4-hour-long sermons and ceremonies. And then the church want to charge you for using their facilities just to be able to perform a funeral. It makes you feel dirty. It makes you feel dirty just thinking about it. It's just, nah, man. And you're in an emotional state. Let me ask you this. How many times have people said that it's best not to make big decisions when emotional? And yet, these funeral homes and businesses will take advantage of you in making a major financial decision when you're in an emotional state. And you may charge it to your credit card. Or you may end up going to debt to start a payment plan. Payment plan? For mourning your dead loved one? Payment plan? Something's wrong, baby. Something's wrong. All right, continue, brother.
Okay. I did this every goddamn day. I didn't care if it was your baby or your grandmama. My job was to get paid. So understand this when you're dealing with funeral home people, okay? It's about that money. It's about that money. It's about that money. And these people collect 30% commissions off of your emotions. I was very good at this. I didn't care who it was, who died, what. I had to get paid. It's a very cold-hearted man's hustle. You know what I'm saying? So just understand when somebody get to hollering and screaming about a funeral, tell them, don't spend all that goddamn money to put in a hole in the ground. And I'm done. You do what you want.
Now, if any of you have family in your life, I think this is a conversation that you all need to have while you are in your right faculties right now. And I don't care how old you are. You need to have this discussion. You got a spouse? Talk about it now. You got family members? You got nieces, nephews, brothers, cousins, grandbabies, grandmamas, anybody, especially if they're in your right faculties, talk about this right now while you are in your right mind. Make the decisions and plan right now, because in this capitalist system, they will exploit you out the wazoo. I'm trying to curse less. They will exploit you out the wazoo just because you're in an emotional state. 30% commission? Y'all got me effed up. If you think that I'm going to let you bury me with 30% commission. No, I'm taking that 30% with me. Put it in the ground with me. Because no, you are not. No. These people got their goddamn minds. And the crazy part about it is, that what this gentleman is saying is true, because there are billions of dollars in funerals, billions in the funeral industry. That beautiful casket ain't going to matter when they're in the ground. Who gives a crap if they're in a beautiful casket? Put me in a pine box and bury my ass. Do not sit there and try to make a funeral for me all pretty and no. Put a picture of my goofy mug up there so that everybody can laugh, right? Give some flowers to my mama and my boyfriend. Hug them, say you're sorry, and keep it moving. Wrap me in cheesecloth, put me in a pine box, and bury me somewhere. Or roast my ass, take my ashes, and dump them in the Atlantic. I don't care. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to be exploited because of my passing. I refuse. No. I'm giving this to the capitalist system one last time. When I go, I'm doing this to the capitalist system. Like, nah, baby. That ain't happening with me. You ain't going to exploit my mama. You ain't exploiting my boyfriend. No. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these factoids here, because this is crazy. A lot of times people get exploited so much. So this is out of U.S. funeral industry today. How much does the U.S. funeral industry worth? Hang on. Let me enlarge this so you guys can see real good. It says the U.S. funeral market is currently estimated to be worth around $20 billion annually, with 2.4 million funerals taking place each year. Due to the increase in U.S. senior population in the coming years, this death rate is set to rise. I know this is going to, be kind of unsettling to people, but the boomer population is a very large population. And the boomer population is in their mid to late 70s down to their late 50s. Late 50s to mid 70s. And they're getting old now. And because of that big of a population, the funeral industry is licking their chops. Like, all right, we got more people that's going to die. That means more money for us to make. Do not allow yourself to be exploited. Do not allow your family to be exploited by this industry. Capitalism is such a vicious system that it will make as much money off of you when you're grieving as possible. Can you imagine? You have a death of a child and then you have to go through this process? Can you imagine the death of a spouse having to go through this process? And people will sit there and go, well, how do you honor your loved ones? You can honor your loved ones, but you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to do it. And that shouldn't be. Why do we accept this? In my opinion, this is just wrong. It's wrong. As we can see, capitalism affects us even in death. Corporations will try to make profit off of us even when we die. When a loved one dies, you're already dealing with a lot of tragedy and trauma. So being exploited is something that is dirty and wrong. Here's my opinion. Death services are another thing that shouldn't be for profit and should be publicly funded. I said death services should not be for profit and should be publicly funded. You should not have to pay to be born, and you should not have to pay to die or to be remembered. So, in the meantime, until we actually change the system to a more egalitarian, equal, and equitable system, here are some tips that I would like to share with you guys. So, let me see. So, this talks about low cost or free services funeral. Says looking for low cost or even free cremation service. Says direct cremation or donating a body to science. Says when it comes to dealing with a deceased person, there are various options available, each with its own costs and considerations. Two of the least expensive methods are direct cremation and body donation programs. It is important to note that not everyone may qualify for body donation. For this reason, we recommend contacting the local funeral home cremation provider first. Many providers can assist you about local body donation programs where you live. It says direct cremation involves the immediate cremation of the deceased without any funeral or viewing services. This is typically the most affordable option, with prices starting at $795, so about $800. Direct cremation is less expensive than traditional burial or other funeral options. The most primarily covers the cremation process, transportation, and basic services provided by the funeral home or crematory. Direct cremation offers a straightforward and simple process, and the deceased ashes are usually returned to the family within a week or two. Then you have body donation programs. So this basically is talking about donating your body to science, but there are different caveats. Like for instance, body mass index being a factor as well. So that's also another variable. So just be sure to about that. It says direct cremation or free cremation with body donation. It says first and foremost, the importance to ensure that what we define is meant by the offer of free or no cost cremation with a donation. If your loved one is accepted for a donation by a national anatomical donation company, they do ordinarily cover all costs, including collection and transportation of the deceased to a facility, the cremation post donation, and the return of the cremated remains by mail. Local universities or medical schools that offer anatomical donation programs may not cover all costs associated with the body donation. For example, they can require that the family use the services of a funeral home to transport the deceased to the university's facility for a donation. A funeral home will charge a transportation fee for this service. Sometimes there is a small charge for processing the necessarily legal documents, such as death certificates and transit permits. Secondly, body donation is often a supply and demand sector, meaning that acceptance of donors at the time of passing can be affected by capacity levels at institutions in the state or region. The volume of recent donations and local training and research needs can determine this. No anatomical donation company or university will guarantee acceptance onto a program at the time of death, even if donor has pre-registered. Thirdly, you must consider the circumstances of the health and weight of the deceased and the condition of the body at the time of death. As mentioned, some pre-existing health conditions exclude individuals from donation, and certainly weight is a factor. Obesity and a high body mass index are most likely to exclude an individual from a body donation program. So, it says direct cremation may be your best or low-cost option, as a donation is not guaranteed acceptance at the time of death. It is usually recommended to have a plan B. In other words, do not just rely on opting for body donation, but have identified with a disposition plan if there's a donation, if the donation is declined. So basically a contingency plan just in case. This is where knowing how to find low-cost direct cremation can be vital. The benefits of opting for direct cremation also means that surviving family remains in control of the cremation process and will have the cremated remains back within 1 to 2 weeks, along with death certificates, etc. So any estate closure or memorialization can be undertaken in a swifter time frame than is likely with the body donation. So it says, considering that a direct cremation can generally be conducted between $795 and $1,195 in many areas, this is the most affordable disposition of choice for families needing to manage costs. So this says, what is a no-cost cremation? Although most funeral homes will not mention this, getting a cremation for free is possible. Donating the body in science-based research is one way of getting a cremation for no cost. Several national anatomical donation companies typically use the term no-cost cremation. The body is used for research by the medical profession, and then the body is then cremated and the ashes are returned to the family with no costs incurred. Acceptance of whole body donation can depend upon the logistics of the place of death and the transfer to a suitable institution and the donor's health history. Therefore, you should have an alternative option prepared in the event of donation is not accepted. So then this talks about financial assistance for cremation expenses. And so this basically talks about that. Now, I'm going to share this link in the chat because anybody and everybody, you should have these conversations with loved ones now, because this is very important, because they will exploit you at the time of your death. And a lot of times people and your loved ones, they'll go, well, we have to honor the legacy and we have to honor the memory of our loved one. And sometimes they want to go all out, but you need to have this conversation to say, these are my last wishes. This is what I want. And I do not want you guys to be exploited in this way. Especially if you have a life insurance policy on yourself, then you don't want all that money being used on your funeral expenses. You don't want your loved ones to be exploited for the money that you left them so that they can survive in this system. So this is an important conversation for many to have. I think this is, is necessary. A lot of times people do not talk about capitalism in regards to things like funerals. We don't, because it's something that we don't think about until it actually happens. We talk about capitalism in regards to birth, but what about death? I think that's something that we really need to talk about.